Okay, so this is a run through of GCSE papers, Shadow Set 1, Foundation Tier, Paper 2, the one with Thursday 6th of June 2019 written on the front of it. So remember, this one is a calculator paper, and if it's a calculator paper you should be using a calculator, and the rule is if you type it on the calculator you should write it on the paper because it's most likely going to be worth a mark. Okay, so question 1. 65 over 100, 0.65 is 65 over 100, which must be cancelled down to 13/20. They're both divisible by 5, and as I said, you can use a calculator. Question 2, put these numbers in order of size, smallest first, -5, -3, 0, 4 and 6. Question 3, any factors of 20, so to find factors of anything you can just find numbers that multiply to give 20, so 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. These numbers here are all factors of 20, so therefore you can have any 2 from this list. 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20. And question 4, 1,000 grams is 1 kilogram, so 1,656 grams is 1.656 kilograms. Okay, question 5. Question 5. 3 million in figures is just 3 with 6 zeros. 3 million, 3 with 6 zeros. Question 6. So you had to work out what whether you would get more than £1.70 in change. So 2 coffees, 2 lots of £2.85, plus 1 cake, 1 lot of £2.70 gives £8.40. To work out how much change you'd get, £10 take away £8.40 is £1.60 change. So therefore Hades not correct. Hades thought he'd get more than £1.70 change. Hades didn't get more than £1.70 change, £1.60 change, so not correct. Question 7. Question 7. Why vans on a road, 5 people in each van? If there was 3 vans on the road, 3 times 5 would be 15 people in total. If there was 10 vans on the road, 10 times 5 would be 50 people. But there's Y vans on the road, so it'll be Y times 5, 5Y. Question 8. X times Y times 9 is just 9XY. It's essential that you put the number first and then you don't have the multiply signs. 9XY or 9YX. X times X times X is X cubed. This one's a little bit trickier, part C. You see I've cancelled out this X with this X, this X with this X, and this Y with this Y, and I'm just simply left with X over Y, and that's the answer, X over Y. Question 9, a pictogram. The key is really important. 1 circle represents 16 vinyl records, so on a Monday we've got 1, 2, 3, so 16 times 3 is 48. On a Tuesday we've got 16, 16, and we've got a quarter of a circle, so that'll be worth 4. 16, 16 and 4 is 36. The final part here is a little bit trickier. There's a few different ways you can do it. I've chosen to do it by splitting it up in a ratio. So it says there was a total of 48 vinyl records sold, and the number sold on a Thursday was 5 times the number sold on a Wednesday. So you can see I've expressed this here as a ratio. 5 lots of Thursday is 5 lots of Wednesday, and then I've just divided 48 in that ratio, so 48 divided by 6 gives me 8. So Wednesday is just 8 times 1, Thursday is 8 times 5. As I say, there's many ways you could approach this. Trial and improvement would be fine, right? 2 numbers that add up to make 48, where one of them is 5 times the other, right? As long as you get the 40 and the 8, that's all that matters. And then don't forget to put it back up on your pictogram. So Wednesday was 8, so it's half a circle. Thursday was 40, so 16, 16 and 8 makes 40. Next question, question 10. Question 10, here's the symbols. We know that 21 is less than 28. 5 plus 8 is 13. 148, 91 is also 13, so they are equal to each other. 2 cubed is equal to 2 times 2 times 2, and -4 is greater than -6. Okay, this bit here is important. To get 2 marks, you'd need all 4 of them correct. If you get 2 or 3 of them correct, you get 1 mark, but if you only get 1 right, you don't get any marks. Question 11. Question 11. P is 9r plus 5q, so 1 mark just for substituting in. 9 times 5 plus 5 times minus 4. 45 plus minus 20 is 25. And again, don't forget, if you're unsure with your negative numbers, use your calculator, right? 45 plus minus 20 is 25. Okay, don't forget to use the calculator. Next question, question 12, timetable question. How many minutes do you have to wait? Nadine gets there to the station 8:15. How long does she have to wait until 8:22? 7 minutes. Part B, how long will it take the 8:22 train to get to London? Well, leaves at 8:22, gets there at 10, so 38 minutes takes you to 9 o'clock, plus another hour, 1 hour 38 minutes. 1 hour 38 minutes. It would have been acceptable, it is acceptable to treat that as 60 minutes plus 38 minutes is 98 minutes. As long as you've got the units in, either of those is acceptable. Next question, 13. So diagram shows 9 identical squares inside a rectangle, and you're told that the length of the rectangle is 18 centimeters, and you need to work out the width of the rectangle. You need to work this length out here. So I can see that it is 6 squares across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 squares across, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this direction. Okay, so if this is 18 across, then 18 divided by 6 means that each one of these little squares must be 3 centimeters. So 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters. Okay, so if I know each little square is 3 centimeters, 3 times by 5 is 15. It must be, this length here must be 15 centimeters. Okay, so there's the answer, 15 centimeters. Next question, 14. There's a slightly more detailed version of this question in the other videos. If you wanted to look this up in a bit more detail, the answer is 2 to 1 for 1 mark. And again, question 15, there's a more detailed version of this answer with full explanations, a different video. So you can see here, you needed to work out the total area and then work out how much was grass. Well, flowers were 40%, so grass must have been 60%, so you need to work out the total area and then work out 60% of it. Okay, and you can see that the final answer is 3,360 square meters. Don't forget those units. Again, like I said, there's a full version of this with more explanation on one of the other videos. Question 16, a probability question. So which one is least likely to land on heads? Well, this is showing information about 4 different coins with probabilities that it land on heads. So which is the smallest probability? It's this one, it's B. Which is most likely, which is the biggest probability? It's A, because that one's 40%, that will be 44%, so that one is more. And then the next part, probability that coin C will land on heads is the same as the probability coin C will land on tails. Well, coin C, the probability it lands on heads is 1/4, so the probability it lands on tails must be 3/4, so it's not the same. And then final part, a little bit trickier, slightly higher standard. Coin B is going to be thrown 4,000 times. Work out an estimate for the number of times it lands on heads. Well, if you want to work out an estimate for the number of times something will happen, or the number of times something is expected to happen, you always just take the probability and multiply it by the number of trials that you're doing. This one's got 4,000 trials, and we're talking about coin B. Coin B has a probability of landing on heads of 0.044. So we just take the probability, multiply that by the number of trials, and you end up with 176. Question 17. Again, this is one where there's a lot more detail spoken about in another video for this question, which you can find if you search for it in the playlist or on the channel. but you can see that, again, I've done it as a ratio, calories to sausages, 300 calories, 100 grams of sausages, and you need to put it as 60 grams of sausages. So just find out what 60 grams of sausages, how many calories it would be in 60 grams of sausages, and the same sort of thing over here with the bacon, and you end up with 990 calories as a final answer. As I said, this is explained in a bit more detail on another video. As is this one. This one is also explained in a bit more detail on another video. So I will just very briefly show the answers here. We've got that information there. Machine A would make 576 parts in 12 hours. You're told that it makes 8 parts in 10 minutes. And again, just using ratio, multiply it up, scale it up. Same sort of thing for machine B. You're told that it does 17 parts in 15 minutes. Scale it up to 10 hours for machine B. Get the total number of parts. Machine A parts plus machine B parts, 1,256 is the answer. Question 19. Again, this one, there's a much more detailed version of this answer with everything that's going on in one of the other videos. So if you want to find this out and listen to that in a bit more detail, then look at that video. This is the answer. This is 6 centimeters. It's using the compass. This has to be 5 centimeters using it, and it needs to be a parallel straight line, so it's been measured to be parallel down here. And this is the area where Sheena could put the table, so this is the bit that would need to be shaded. Question 20. Question 20, these are solved just like an equation, exactly the same as you would solve an equation. So I've taken away 13n from both sides, and I'll be left with 3n is greater than 9, divided both sides by 3, and I'm left with n is greater than 3. So solve that exactly the same as you would solve an equation, except you haven't got an equal sign, you've got a greater than or a less than sign. Part B, another inequality question. So again, you can solve this, although this doesn't really look so much like an equation, you can solve it using those same things. So I've just rewritten the question. There's my x. I've taken away 3 from this, so then that'll just leave me with x, but of course I need to take away 3 from each of these ones as well. So I end up with minus 6 less than x less than or equal to 2. And now I can put this onto my number line. So it needs to go from minus 6 up to 2. So minus 6 up to 2. Now the reason that the 2 is coloured in is because it says it's less than or equal to 2. So it means it must include the 2. This one is not equal to the minus 6 as well. So the minus 6 has to stay empty. Okay, so that's what the how you'd represent it on the number line. Question 21, straight line graph. So you can draw a table. So it goes from, it says from minus 2 to 4. So I've put from minus 2 to 4 in my table. And then I just need to work out those y values. So y is equal to 2 times whatever x is, take away 2. Always easier to start on the positive numbers. So 2 times 4, take away 2, is 6. This one, when x is 3, 2 times 3, take away 2, is 4. When x is 2, 2 times 2, take away 2, is 2. And then you can easily see this pattern. This is going down by 2 each time, right? So 2 times 1, take away 2 is 0. Pattern follows, right? And then you can fill the rest in and then get it plotted, right? And be really careful with the scale here. This is going along 2 squares for every 1 unit. So be really, really careful there. It's a straight line graph. It doesn't have any x squareds in or square root of x or x cubes or anything like that. So it will be a straight line. If you cannot get your ruler, right, once you've plotted your points, once you've plotted these coordinates, 4 along 6 up, 3 along 4 up, 2 along 2 up, and so on. Once you've plotted those points, if you can't join them up in one straight line with your ruler, something's gone wrong. So check your table, right? Don't just ignore it. Check your table, change it, get it right. There are other methods that you can use to do this question. One would be what's called the gradient intercept method. Now, some of you will be aware that this is the gradient and this would be the y-intercept. So the gradient would be 2 and the y-intercept would be -2. So you can do it but without the table, by just sort of saying, well, the y-intercept is -2, so I know it cuts the y-axis at -2. And if we also know that the gradient is 2, that means for every one along we go up 2. So 1 unit across, 2 units up. 1 unit across, 2 units up. 1 unit across, 2 units up. And you can just mark your points on that way. You do, like I said, you've got to be really careful with the scale here. 1 unit across happens to be 2 squares. 2 units up also happens to be 2 squares. So be really careful with the scale if you're using that method. Either way, this is what you'll end up with, and you must make sure that your line doesn't go beyond the 4. And it says to do it from -2 to 4 for x values from -2 to 4. So make sure it goes along to the 4 and along to the -2, but not any further. Okay, question 22. I've got a more detailed version of this question on another video as well, so you can take a look at that if you wish. Naomi's doing a day trip. She's sampled 30 students, and these are what she's got. She wants to know how many of the 165 students would want to go to the theme park based on her sample of 30 students. So as I put here in the sample, 10 out of 30 chose the theme park. So 10 students chose the theme park out of the 30 that she sampled. So I've used this fraction for the whole group. 10/30ths of 165, because it's 165 in the whole group. 10/30ths of 165, or 10/30ths times 165 will get you the correct answer. And don't forget, you can use a calculator. 10/30ths of 165. 55. Of course, that's also the same as 1/3 of 165. Right, that fraction. Either way, the answer is 55. And then the second part, state any assumption that you made and explain how it may affect the answer. I've assumed the sample of 30 is truly representative of the whole group. Otherwise, the estimate of 55 might be too high or too low. For example, if Naomi only asked her best friends, or one class or something or other, right? It may not have been a fair representation of the whole 165 students who were going to go. Question 23. Again, there's a more detailed version of this question on another video if you want to find out about it. So got a cuboid. The cuboid's 2/3 full of water. Cup holds 275 millilitres. What's the greatest number of cups that you can get from the water in the cuboid? So the volume in the whole container, length times width times height. Volume of a cuboid, 27,360 cubic centimetres. 2/3 of it, so divide it by 3 times it by 2. So that's how much volume is taken up by water in the container at the moment. And then there's this little fact here that I think many people forget this fact or don't realise that 1 millilitre has a volume of 1 cubic centimetre. So therefore 18,240 cubic centimetres is 18,240 millilitres. Okay, and if you don't know that fact, you can't get any further than this. And it's not difficult because there's no converter, it's just 1 millilitre, 1 cubic centimetre. Okay, so now all we need to know is how many 275 millilitre cups can we fill up? 18,240 divided by 275, 66.327 recurring, so it'll be 66 full cups, because you can't get 67 cups, 66 full cups. 24 is a trigonometry question, sine, cos, tan. So I've written the shorthand version of the SOHCAHTOA triangle, SOHCAHTOA. I've labelled up the triangle, opposite, hypotenuse and adjacent. We're trying to find this length, and we know what this one is, so it's an opposite and hypotenuse question. Adjacent's nothing to do with it. Therefore, we're using this. It's a sign question. It's a sign question. So if we want to find the opposite, cover it up, and we're left with these two. And if they're next to each other, we multiply them. Sine of the angle multiplied by the hypotenuse gives us 11.08 to 2 decimal places. Question 25. Jenny used a calculator to work out the value of a number, which is y. The answer began 9.5, calculated the error interval. Well, it's definitely less than 9.6, but it could be 9.5 or more. Question 26. So Amanda, Bernard, Colleen and Dawn, A, B, C, D, shared £450. The ratio Amanda gets to the amount Bernard gets 2 to 7, and Colleen and Dawn get 1.5 times the amount Amanda gets. Work out the amount of money Bernard gets. A, B, C, D. A to B is 2 to 7, and we know that Colleen and Dawn get 1.5 times what Amanda gets. So 1.5 times 2 is 3. Colleen and Dawn get 1.5 times this. So the ratio A, B, C, D is 2 to 7 to 3 to 3. Okay, and then it's a relatively simple case of dividing 450 in this ratio. So you do, it adds up to 15. 450 divided by 15 multiplied by 7. Bernard gets that share of the ratio, and the answer is £210. £210. Question 27, standard form. 0.00467 in standard form will be 4.67 times 10 to the power minus 3. Okay, negative power when it's a small number, and 1.547 times 10 to the power 3 is an ordinary number, is 1547. Right, times 10 times 10 times 10. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the final question, not quite the final question, the final page, question 28. A Fibonacci sequence, right, it's really straightforward. The word scares people, it doesn't need to. It just means that each number is the sum of the two before it. So for example, 4 plus 4 gives us 8, 4 plus 8 gives us 12, 8 plus 12 gives us 20, and now you can work out the next two terms. 12 plus 20 is 32, 20 plus 32 is 52. There's the next two terms. And then there's one with algebra. It's no more difficult. 2a plus 2a is 4a, 2a plus 4a is 6a, 4a plus 6a is 10a, 6a plus 10a is 16a, and that was the one we needed. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth term, 16a. And question 29, a column vectors question. A is 6, 5, B is 5, 2. You need to work out what A take away 2B is. Well, there's A. There's B. We want to know what 2B is. So if B is 5, 2, 2B is 10, 4. Just multiply it by 2, 10, 4. And you need to do A take away 2B. So we've got 6, 5, which is A, take away 10, 4, and 10, 4 is 2B. So 6 take away 10 is minus 4. 5 take away 4 is 1. The answer is minus 4, 1. Okay, it's not a fraction. Don't put a line in there. Right, it's not a fraction. You just want minus 4, 1. Okay, and that is all 80 marks completed.